All right, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are live, and it is Tuesday. That means Transformation Tuesday. So I got a little bit of a special for you today, and excited to bring it. It's a talk we did not that long ago, and pardon me, while I'm sharing around the link, do the same. There's a group of people that are into personal growth. There's friends, there's family members that want greater understanding about quantum physics, about the nature of mind and body. And this is the core content that I relate, is the communication between the body and the brain, and back from the brain back to the body, including the mind, which is something different, by the way. And there's a language there. We have to learn to decode it. It seems to be a secret language. I used a fun phrase because I did a talk, the secret language of the human body, and what we talked about was nonverbal communication. So today I pulled up a talk. It's an hour-long talk, but I'm going to show you the second half because it really ties into the topic of today, faith. Now, for those of you out there that hear that word and you got a little something behind it, well, that's called dogma. And so what I'm talking about faith is essentially that you know something is going to be. You have faith in a chair when you sit on it. Before you actually land and put all your body weight on it, there's technically an unknown if it's actually going to hold your body weight. But by your observation skills, by your experience, you know if you go to sit down on that chair, it'll be just great and you'll be kept well safe. However, there are things in life that we can put faith in, like certain some people don't like these terms. However, natural laws. If I plant a seed and it has the proper weather conditions, it has the proper sunlight, the proper water, the proper nutrients in the soil, or at least a close enough range, well, we get life. And if it's an optimal range, we get greater expression of life. That's a law of a seed. So there's certain things that when done, repeat, grow, nurture. So just like when you go to the gym, you can get stronger and more defined and more fit and more everything. Or you can do that outside in the park, or you can do it right in your own apartment. You can do that right, depending on where you're watching this, you can even do this in a prison cell. Do your push-ups and your squats right where you're standing. That's a tough analogy. However, so let's get down to the content. If you're just tuning in, my name is Dr. Kevin. This is Transformation Tuesday. Every Tuesday we go live, broadcasted over a wide swath of social media, and I'm asking people to share the content. If you've gotten value, if you've gotten insight, if you think this kind of information would be better for the world to hear, share it with a loved one. Share it with a friend. Share it with one of your social media groups. There's different meditation groups and conscious groups and Reiki groups and massage groups and quantum physics groups and shaman groups and in ancient cultures and so all kinds of interesting things and interesting topics that this correlates and winds into, because we're talking about the nature of your brain, central nervous system, the conscious, the unconscious, the superconscious. All these things are playing in a grand orchestra for you to be experiencing the tapestry of your life. Well, my cell phone's not cooperating. I found it, so if you I found my phone. I had misplaced it there for a moment. Okay, so I'll go right there. I'm gonna try one more share. So with that being said, I'm gonna start this video right here, and it gets right into the meat of it. Here we go. Yes. Other people before me have done it. I can do it too. And because of that, this transformation game. Let's bring it back here a little bit. Personal growth game. There we go. This personal spiritual consciousness transformation game is, I've stuck to it. I've had faith in the process. Other people before me have done it. I can do it too. And because of that, I knew maybe for me, it may be a different path. It may take a little longer. It may be, a bit of a different kind of adventure. I'll say it that way. But it was my way. And it was the way I needed to heal. And no one else could tell me that. I had to find it for me. And people in my life were thankful and excited for me. And people were cursing me. And people were doubting me and giving me fear-based thinking patterns to contemplate, and I chose to ignore them. Some I held on to, and I had to work through. And so that's the path that this book is essentially helping people figure out, is how to connect within. So you are energy. I gave you the water analogy, but let's take a look at a science analogy. Okay, if you take a microscope and you swab the inside of your mouth, or you scrape off some skin cells, or you pull a piece of hair out, and you take it to a lab, they'll start looking at it through a microscope, and they can get the DNA from any cell, and they can tell where you come from. They can tell the health problems that you have. And that's from one type of cell. But how could they tell all the health issues? So you zoom in even more, and we get that cell, and we look at what makes up the cell. And we have atoms. And there's atoms, if you remember back to biology class. They have smaller parts: protons, neutrons, electrons. And these parts make up the nucleus and the outer shell, or the energetic shell of these things, and they stick together. If you look at water, H2O, 1 hydrogen, 2 oxygen, those are 3 cells, 3 atoms, right? Is that right? Forming atoms, I hope it's right, we're forming this water molecule, H2O. And there's 3 different components coming together, and they're held together with a bond, a positive force and a negative force. Those forces are bonding together. There's not like it's a hook of 2 pieces of rope or string or something. There's an electromagnetic bond, some type of energetic bond. And those components find another H2O, and they come together and they form more H2O, just more of it, and that's a molecule. I got that part right. And then they attract more, and there's more, and now we have a drop of water. Now, I couldn't tell you, I don't know that off the top of my head. There's a specific number of amounts of cells or atoms of water that form a molecule of water. And that water is held together with all these positive and negative forces. And you look at all the other atomic structures: carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, these components, and there's more: nickel, aluminum, even formaldehyde. What else is in there? What's in that one that makes it interesting? But the atomic chart you've seen back in science class, there's so many of these components make up the human body, and they're all held together with positive and negative forces. And when you zoom in enough, you can see there's space between the nucleus and the outer shell. And no one really is, not that I'm aware of at this point, is really clear of what that empty space is. And that's the same within the cells as it is the same within space in our solar system. You look at the sun, there's a lot of distance between the sun and the planet, or the sun and the earth, sun and the moon, the sun and other planets. There's all this distance. So what's happening in that space between? And it makes up about 97% of our known universe, as we're told at this point. So what is that other material? What is that other stuff? It makes up the vast majority of our universe. And this is what quantum science and quantum physics and quantum mechanics, these are what these sciences are talking about. So we are energy. It starts to go beyond this physical 3D experience into some other non-physical experience, but it's part of who we are. We are physical and non-physical. We are body and mind. So it starts to play with those concepts. So moving on from we are energy, once we get the idea that we are energetic and that our thoughts and how we go about our actions in life, they bring about experiences. And so typically people who connect with me are wanting a different experience. Something isn't good in their life, something hurts in their life, there's a pain in their life, they're at their rock bottom moment. They've tried every doctor, tried every technique, they tried this and that. And yet, when they come and see me, and I know there's many health professionals like me, they've never heard of anything I've ever done. Maybe they've heard of Reiki. So what I'm saying with that statement is there's so much out there still that even if you're looking and you're searching, you may have not come across it yet. And this is where I was in my life. I was not a healthy individual at 26 years old. I was really passionate about brain, spinal cord, and neurology, the nervous system stuff. And I was really passionate about it, and I thought that was it. That's all. I forgot about nutrition. I just wanted to put food because I was hungry. I was taught how to eat big because I had to gain weight for football. And when I stopped playing football and I stopped playing rugby, I just got fat. I kept getting adjusted. I kept checking my neurology, but I was feeding myself toxins all the time. And literally, as soon as I stopped putting the bad stuff in, it's like 30 pounds just like dropped off. And I started putting good stuff in. It became automatic. Now, I'm fortunate that way. There's some people that even though they do that, there's something not changing in them. And so there's other factors that as I continued my studies in nutrition, and it's been an ongoing 10-year study, and there's more knowledge, there's more in-depth information that I only was introduced 2 years ago to. Now, that's my path. I was very powerful and strong and confident in neurology. And where life took me was energy work, energy healing. Because when I shifted my beliefs, that's when everything shifted. And I investigated emotions and thinking patterns and why did that affect my life? And that's what got me into the emotional work. That's what got me into unique chiropractic methods. That's what got me into energy healing. Because it talks about holism, the whole body. The mind and body aren't separated from each other. And I have a wonderful, I put a diagram in here, and I wish I could find the page real quickly. I'll mark it next time so I can flip right to it. But on the book, page 20 and 21, there's a diagram, there's a model of, it looks like a small human being with a very large hands, very large lips, very large tongue, and very large earlobes and feet. And what this image represents is the number of nerves correlates with the size of the body part. So if there's something like wrists are very tiny in this image, there's not a lot of nerve control, not a lot of sensory information input going from the wrist, but our fingertips. That's how we sense and feel everything. There's a very large amount of nerve endings in our fingertips, in our lips, in our tongue, and our hands. And so this image represents the amount of nerves that go to that zone. So these areas are sensing things differently than the rest of our body. In the next image, I show a slice of the brain. And if you can see the image, and if you can't, I'll flash it right here real quick. I'll hold it in front of the camera. Hopefully you can zoom in. I'll pop it right there. I'll sit down, I'll show the audience over here. And if you can see this image right here, it's a slice of the brain. And what you can see is in the middle, at the top, it has the picture of a foot and different body parts along the way, and it ends down here with the tongue. And this is the physical location of the brain center that's in charge of deciphering feelings of that body part. What this picture in the book doesn't show us is in the next slice, if I sliced and I put it, matched it right next to this slice, slicing the head sideways, right next to that is the emotional centers. And there's all these interconnections between the emotional centers and physical body parts and where the nerve endings are sensed. So this becomes important because if I'm having hand pain, like you said, knee pain, if I'm having hand pain, there's an emotional center that relates to that physical body part right next to it in the brain, directly next to it. And so there's a relationship there. So if there's hand pain, perhaps there's an emotion related to holding on, letting go, or even trying to get back at someone, throw that hot coal of fiery anger at someone. Now, I love the analogy of if I'm throwing a hot anger coal at someone, trying to hit them with that anger, who's getting hurt? The person picking up the hot coal or the person who might get hit with that coal? It's an interesting thought. So speaking about emotions, We know there's a physical body connection. People know that our body language can change with our emotional state. But what are these experiences in life showing us? And this is what I talk about in chapter 5, Life as a Mandelbrot. So this Mandelbrot is the name of the chapter is based on the scientist, the professional who discovered how to put infinity into a computer. The idea, basically proving infinity in a mathematical equation. And it's tough to grasp, but when you see it, and pretty much everyone has seen it. If you have a computer and you have a screensaver, you can set the screensaver that spins and goes in, and the more you go in, the more it stays the same. It's just repeating pattern after repeating pattern after repeating pattern just goes in. Kind of like tie-dye, if you've ever seen tie-dye. And how this works is, the topic is repeating life patterns. So if you've had a romantic partner in your life, and then you've had a breakup, and you figured out what you did like and you didn't like about that type of person, and then you get into another relationship later on in life, a couple weeks, couple months, couple years later, and you find yourself in exactly the same kind of relationship, but a different kind of person. That's what I'm talking about in this chapter. That individual who repeats the same thing over again has not learned their lessons, so to speak. So the universe, life, spirit is giving you another opportunity to figure out where you need to shift, where you need to change your beliefs, change your perceptions, change your attitudes, change what you allow into your life. Once you wake up to what needs to happen, the characters and situations almost fall away, and new individuals, new circumstances will flow into your life, will arrive in your life almost automatically, soon as you have that aha moment. So let's take the example of a relationship again, romantic relationship. Because this has happened in my life, where my first real girlfriend, I had a lot of experiences, we dated for many years, and after we broke up, there was a long period of me having the recovery of being done with relationships and drowning my sorrows, and then coming back out of it, a new person. And that new person made new choices, new decisions, and allowed new people into their life. But I repeated some of the same mistakes. So where my next girlfriend, in some ways, was an upgrade, in other ways, there were new challenges I never considered before. So I look at that as the next Mandelbrot, the next go-around in my romantic relationship department, where I leveled up. In the piano, it's the analogy of the next octave, the middle C to the high C, and I got experiences, and the things I liked, I enjoyed, I got more of those things. It's very interesting how when I pinpointed what I liked in each relationship, how each relationship had that in it. But what I had trouble with in each of those relationships, once I had the breakup and once I figured out what I did and how I needed to do it, and how when I met my next girlfriend and how that her demands or her needs or her requests were kind of similar as before, but I knew better. I knew how to do differently. I knew how to act differently. I knew to buy the flour before I made the bad statement, you know? I knew to make the dinner and do the dishes or do the laundry before I had to be asked, versus letting it sit and letting it sit and letting it sit before I got berated because I wasn't participating or wasn't giving or whatever it was. And I promise you, some of those old habits still rear their head. And I'm aware enough now to know when it was me and not someone's having a bad day, so I'm just let them have a bad day. I was a participant too. So that's what chapter 5 is about. And that's how, whether it's relationships or business opportunities or how you treat yourself, those things continue to show up until you get that lesson. And I write in the book, don't worry. The messenger will get louder and louder and louder until you really get the message. So what does that mean in life? The symptom gets stronger. The problem gets bigger. Things get more confusing until you wake up to that, whatever that is.
Or could you even have several symptoms that arise if you keep ignoring and...
It's not limited to one symptom by any means. It could be a whole pattern, a whole series of symptoms. So let's talk about that real quick. So if you watch any sports at any point, you can see how the right side of the body and the left side of the body work together. Whether I'm kicking a ball, if I'm kicking with my right foot, the left foot has to plant. The body has to do some type of movement to generate power, and then the action happens and the ball's kicked real far. But when I first learned how to kick a ball, I just stood there straight and I kicked it with my foot, and the ball went like 10 or 15 feet. But now I know better. I'll take a run-up step, I'll plant my foot, I'll twist my hips, my other foot will come through and follow through, and I can kick the ball real far. Same with baseball or throwing anything. I can stand still and throw the ball, and it will go kind of far. But when I take a run-up step, I plant my foot, I twist my hips, and I throw real hard, and I whip my other arm around, the ball goes way farther. So whenever something happens on the right side, there's always something compensating or balancing on the left side. Always. Always, always, always. And it gets complicated because of the 3D movement patterns of the human body. But just know, if something's off one way, there's something balancing it the other way. So, to answer your question, can a symptom that shows up, a problem in life that shows up, have multiple things that are occurring at once? And that is a big time yes. That's a great question. Thank you. So this has to do with chapter 7. The amazing power of changing your beliefs and how you heal. So this pretty much comes from Alberto Vallado and his book about the writings in South America of the shaman, the healers, the natives down there that help people heal them, they heal their people. So we call them shamans, and they have their own unique names. They call them self. And essentially what he talks about is if we can identify the story that we're holding on to, and there's 3 main patterns that we hold on to. We're either the victim, the villain, or the hero. And when there's problems in our life, oftentimes we're the victim or the villain. And so we can start to wake up and shift that belief of who we are and what we're doing in that specific role. Then we can begin to shift the circumstances, the beliefs, and the behaviors that we do, that we portray, and what we attract. So essentially that's chapter 7, chapter 8. And I'm going to complete with chapter 9, which is life is perfect. So life is perfect. That's a tough thing to say sometimes. When you look at movies and the common culture, life is not perfect. I see t-shirts with that. And with some of the tragedies going on out there, when someone says life is perfect, wow, that can be a slap in the face. It can be perceived as a slap in the face. How could I ask for this horrible tragedy to happen in my life? Well, there's circumstances that we don't have control over. In fact, we have no control over anything outside of us, anything but our responses and our reactions. Everything else is happening to us, and I believe everything's happening for us. And this is the idea that when a negative experience happens, it's to help prompt you to question how you're acting, how you're behaving, how you're perceiving the experience, and to look for the silver lining, to look for the positive in the experience, to look for how could I possibly make this a good thing? And when we can focus on that, wonderful things start to happen. We start to see a possibility of why this horrible thing could be good. And depending on the intensity of the challenge, the ease of seeing the good happens. With every challenge, there's grief periods, and there's help, and there's a lot of other concerns that may need to be addressed. But ultimately, if we can begin to see that this may have a positive impact for me, or I may be able to use this in some way, maybe years down the road, to help another. This is some of the things that happened in my life where I didn't understand some of the consequences. I didn't understand why some of the things that were happening to me, what I was going to make of it. And then down the road it appears. I may almost be unprepared at times that I have to talk about this story. And it always comes up in times where I don't think it's going to be there. I'm trying to recall, because I had told 2 stories today I haven't told in years. And it just came up, and it happened to be the perfect story for this particular situation. They needed to hear it, and it was like this complete aha breakthrough moment. And I was just telling them about a story that was happening in my life that I felt connected to them for whatever reason. And that was me listening to my intuition about sharing a story. Well, normally I don't want to share a story in that specific time when I'm seeing a patient, because now that lengthens the time. I'm talking about me, not them. So life is perfect. If we can begin to accept that that may be true, then start to look at some of your experiences and see, how did this work out in my favor? How did this end up being a better thing for me than I thought? And how did I help somebody else because of my experience? We start contemplating those questions, those thoughts, and then you start to see how life is perfect. And then you can really begin to play with that idea and get into the ideas of law of attraction. And that has to do with some of the other natural laws of this universe. So before I wrap up, I want to give a chance for anyone else to ask a question that I brought up. I went through essentially the major points of some of the chapters of the book. And the idea is to shift our philosophy, shift our belief, shift our perceptions of life. And when we do this, new experiences, new occurrences, new wins, new challenges all arrive. And when we can set an idea where we want to go in life, whether it's a vision board or just an intention of what you want to accomplish, things line up, situations happen to give you knowledge, give you ability, give you experience to have what you asked for. As it said, asking you shall receive. And that type of phrase occurs in different words and different texts around our entire planet. So these ancient teachings are coming back, and we're seeing science and we're seeing experience in today's world that's proving it true in my book. So, any final questions, any final thoughts or comments before we wrap up tonight? Okay, I think I successfully filled everyone's tank already, and I get that zombie look, so I know things are full. So I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I am really appreciative of this. You know, the idea that this has and what it did for me in my life as I came to these conclusions, came to these and had these experiences, was that I had the ability to shift my life. I wasn't stuck with what I got. And as I woke up to those facts, I began to consciously take action, to begin to empower myself, to build certainty and confidence. That took some time, yes. Took time, absolutely. All things require time in this space and time, the space-time dimension. And so as those things played out, more and more better experiences kept coming. So if you like this idea, you want to get connected, make sure you're on the Decode Your Pain Facebook page. If you want to invest in and figure out more about what I'm trying to relate to everyone, the words you can go back to and read, and we're going to be making a study of it. We're going to be doing a multiple week module class to dive in deeply, to ask questions. And so that's going to be launched in the very near future. Very close, we're very close. And so get on board, get on the email list from my webpage. There should be links on the connection, the Facebook live stream, and you can get to the website, get on board, sign up on the pop-up. It gets a free positivity course. You'll start getting more content from me about how to grow your life. I've been launching new programs, new classes, and anyone that's on board early is going to get insider information. And I'm excited to bring it. I'm excited to produce it. I have a lot of people around me that are helping me put it together. It is amazing that I set this intention and what starts to show up. Little piece by little piece by little piece. The next thing you know, there's so much momentum, I'm the one getting in the way now. If I get out of the way, it happens. And so now I have to be comfortable with people doing the work, and they're doing a better job than me in many of the places. So that's funny when you rely on others, how sometimes it helps things go better even more so. So thank you again for your time. Hope you have a wonderful night, and blessings to you. Take care. Thank you.